but I'm pretty confident that we could go just about anywhere in the United States and reduce inputs by 30% tomorrow and not see a change in profitability.
Hey everybody, it's Robert F. Kennedy Jr. here, your HHS Secretary, and welcome to the Secretary Kennedy podcast. I'm here with an old friend who's actually been on my old podcast, Rick Clark, who is a farmer from Indiana and one of the leaders of one of the great visionary voices of regenerative agriculture. And Rick runs a 6,500 acre farm, soybeans, corn, sheep,
cattle,
peas,
peas, yes.
Wheat. His story is extraordinary. It's really a parable for what could happen in our country, because he began as a very, very conventional, chemically intensive agriculture farmer. And his journey is instructive to anybody who is interested in transitioning. Mm-hmm. And he's taught hundreds and hundreds of other farmers how to do what he did. And I wanted to have him in because it's so exciting always for me to talk to you, because there's so much hope for the future in your story. Will you talk about, what your journey was?
Yeah. First of all, I want to say I'm honored. Thank you for taking the time. This is important. This is valuable, and this is how we move the needle. So thank you. Yeah, I'm a fifth generation farmer from West Central Indiana. I think my ancestors would be really proud of me of what we've accomplished. We've been on this journey probably for about 18 years now. And when we started, didn't have a name. And all I cared about was being conservation minded and being a good steward to the land. And one thing led to another. The one thing that really set me off and got me in this direction was erosion. We had a field that's about as flat as this table right here. We tilled the field. We had a 1-inch rain event, and the soil, it wasn't soil, it was dirt then. The dirt moved from the field to the ditch and onto the road. And that's when I said, enough, we got to stop. And that's when I really started researching. Came up with the no-till, came up with the cover crops through the research. It's amazing when you stop and think about the people that you meet on the journey and why do you meet certain people at certain times. And this is one of those stories. I met a lady from Wisconsin that taught me and 30 or 40 other farmers how to use the roller crimper to its fullest advantage. And when I learned how to use that roller crimper the way she taught us to use it, it was Dr. Aaron Silva from the University of Wisconsin. That was my gateway to eliminating the chemistry, because we didn't need it any longer. We had a way to grow cover crop, roll them down with the roller crimper, suppress weeds, and grow cash crops in that. And that was the moment that is like, wow, we can do this. And that's what got me there.
So for people who are not farmers in the audience, a cover crop is usually a grassy crop that you plant before you plant the commercial crop.
The cash crop, that is correct. That's correct. It's usually a plant, and we call it, the nickname's a cocktail. So it's a planned cocktail of species of multiple families of plants. That is correct.
It's grasses, maybe.
Grass is in there.
You've got very tall grass that could be 4 or 5 feet high.
That's right. Cereal rye, Italian ryegrass, things like that. Brassicas. We have legumes in there.
And then when you cut those down, you cut them down at the time that you're planting. Mm-hmm. So instead of planting on soil, you're planting through a mat, a thick mat of grass, and that keeps the soil in place.
That's right. And it armors the soil.
It armors the soil, and it holds the moisture in the soil.
That's right.
So you don't get erosion.
It builds resilience.
And it also means the weeds have a hard time growing.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah, everything you said is spot on. And it's just like
one month do you plant the
cover crop? It depends. If we're gonna have the management practices are a little bit more intensive than a traditional conventional, because I've got to kind of plan for 2 or 3 years out, okay? So if I'm going to have corn in this field right here next year, I need to have probably a cereal grain growing in that field now. And then when we get to harvest in July and that cereal grain comes off, we will then have time to plant the cover crop that I need to raise the corn in the following year, because I'm going to have different species for a cocktail to go to corn than I will for a species of a cocktail to go to soybeans, okay? So it makes a difference when, but for the most part, following a cereal grain is August. The rest of the time, it's when you harvest the corn or the soybeans, which is going to be October for the most part, and that's when like cereal rye goes in heavy. When you live in a state that gets cold and freezes, you're limited to only a few species of plants that you can plant after a certain date of the year, because it won't do any good to plant them because they're going to die in just a few weeks. Cereal rye is one of those plants that you're talking about. It's in the grass family. It'll get 6 feet tall, and we can roll that down, create a mat, suppress it, and then grow the cash crop.
So now you've just admitted that this is more work than just spraying chemicals.
It's a little bit more work, yeah. It's just an easy
button.
button.
Looking for more work. But
No.
So what is the advantage in doing this?
The advantage.
Let's just talk money.
Yeah, let's talk money. The advantage is real. When you leave the mindset that you have to maximize yield, that's number one. You've got to leave that mindset, because in this system, at the beginning especially, you're not going to be winning the state fair contest for yield, okay? But where you're going to shine is the reduction of inputs that you're paying for up front and all that risk. I mean, when a farmer in the Midwest goes out to farm, a conventional farmer that's buying all these inputs, they usually have everything planted by Mother's Day. So they have risked all of that money that they borrowed at the bank to buy those inputs is now at risk by May 10th. And now it's up to the growing season is all up to Mother Nature. Are we going to rain? Is it going to be good enough? Are the weeds going to stay at bay? Do we have to spray again? Do we have enough fertilizer put on? All of these things they're worried about. I don't have any input costs going in any of this except the cover crop we planted last fall. Okay? So the risk to reward is the simple fact of I don't have all of those inputs purchased and lying out there at risk of what Mother Nature's going to give to us.
Okay.
So we're saving $2 million.
Okay, I want you to just go through the inputs. If you can remember the way that
Sure.
was stacked.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, when you start looking down the way to save money, diesel fuel.
Per acre, how much you paying for diesel fuel? Let's go through a per acre for each of these inputs.
That's going to be a tough one for me per acre.
Okay, well, you do it for your 6,500. For your 6,500 acres.
Yeah. Yeah,
how much you're spending for diesel fuel, and then go through each of the other inputs.
Yeah, we are spending right now roughly 20,000 gallons at $4. We're spending about $80,000 for 65,000 acres. So if you want to do that math, it's a little more than $1 per acre on the fuel, and that is where we are now. That's the savings. When we used to be here, we would double that number. So we would be closer to $3.50 to $4 an acre for fuel.
Just talk about the cost of the whole farm.
And
let's go through each of the
right
inputs.
now, the fuel, the nitrogen, the synthetic nitrogen, the MAP, the DAP, the potash, the lime, and the chemistry is about $2.4 million of savings that we are not having to write a check for. And we're saving that money in our pocket. We're not putting those acids and those caustic items on our ground.
Which are destroying the microbiome.
It's destroying the microbiome, and then as a result of that is creating food that's not nutritious. So we then, once you stop applying the salts and the acids and the chemicals and the insecticides and stop killing the microbial biome and the benefit of the microbial biome, you then create a healthy environment for now your cash crop to grow in. People say to me all the time, how can you raise non-GMO corn and not have any insecticide? Once you stop killing the beneficial species that prey on the rootworm that's going to affect that corn plant without insecticide, you don't need the insecticide because the beneficial is there to keep the balance. See, that's the problem. I can't say every farm. Most of the farms across the Midwest are out of balance, meaning they are 90% bacterial microbial biome and 8 or 9 or 10% fungal. You can't do that. If you want to promote and build soil health, you need to switch from bacterial up here, fungal down here, to this. You've got to get it into balance. And that's what you can see happen to these soils immediately with a soil test. You don't need fancy, expensive equipment to validate that what we're doing is correct.
So, most farmers say no farmer wants the inputs. They don't want them.
Yeah.
And a lot of that stuff is poison. Iowa now has the highest cancer rate in the country. Mm-hmm. And so the farmers don't want them and they're expensive. But they say to transition to a regenerative farm or even organic farm takes years, and I cannot afford to do it because I am living year to year.
Yeah, I understand that.
So what do you say to those farmers?
You have to get the proper teaching, because that's the crossroads that we're at now is the teaching. I mean, if you think about the number of acres that we want to move, how many farmers that is, that's a lot of teachers. Okay? So we've got to get those teachers taught. Once we teach that teacher to teach the farmer how to properly implement these 6 principles of soil health, they then won't be as scared to try it because somebody ahead of them has done what they're trying to teach them.
And can they make money in the first year?
They can. I think, I got to be careful, like we all do. We got to be careful what we say or what we promise, but I'm pretty confident that we could go just about anywhere in the United States and reduce inputs by 30% tomorrow and not see a change in profitability. I didn't say yield. I said change in profitability. They'll be more profitable. So when we think about that, and now we're at a part in the journey for me where this is all about 2 major things. This is all about human health and it's all about soil health. And let me talk about human health for a minute. Here's how I look at human health. There's 2 ways to look at it. The one way is the way everybody looks at it, which is exactly right. We got to increase nutrient density of the food we're producing. And I think another thing that people don't take, let's take that a step further. If we could increase the amount of nutrient density in the food we're producing, you don't need to feed as much food to someone to get the amount of nutrients that we're getting. They could get half of that. So now go somewhere like a third world country or somewhere where they really need healthy food. They take anything they could get a hold of. You now just need a smaller portion to give them a bigger bang of protein and nutrients. That's one way to look at it. The other way to look at human health is look at what the farmer has been asked to do for the last 30 years. A lot of these products have skull and crossbones on them. That's death. It's danger. So we have dumped the farmers into an environment where they have to use these products. So I look at human health as saving the health of my team members and my family, my grandchildren, my daughters, my wife. I mean, Bobby, when I look back at our family tree, it's cancer, diabetes. Why? I got a 24-year-old nephew who had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. It's all coming back to what we all feel like is the answer.
And how is the soil on your farm now?
The soil on our farm, I feel like, is it's tilthy. It's alive. I think we had, I don't know, it's maybe been 3 years now. We had our Indiana State soil health specialist came, and she wanted to do some infiltration tests, and she wanted to do some aggregate stability. And I think our water infiltration was 20 inches an hour. And our earthworm counts were between 1.6 and 1.7 million earthworms per acre. And aggregate stability was 10 inches deep. And aggregate stability is what it sounds like it is. It's when the soil forms aggregates on the root structures or in the profile of the soil. And as you create that aggregate stability, just envision a glass jar filled with marbles, and you've got all that pore space in there that can now hold oxygen and water. And that's why you want to increase that, so when it rains, you get every last drop goes in and is stored in that profile. Now, when you have that armor on the soil that you talked about earlier, you are now building resilience to whatever the wrath of Mother Nature wants to give us. Now, we got to be careful, because I can only take so much wrath. I mean, we've been in a weather environment in the last 3 years where we are getting these little mini micro droughts. I don't know what the term for it is. We'll go 8-9 weeks with no rain and 92, 93, 94 degrees, and it will suck the life out of everything. Now, our conventional neighbors, they're wilting up pretty quick. We can hang with them for several weeks, but I can't take that kind of just, coming right at you. So we have to be careful sometimes is our system resilient? Yes, it is, but it can only handle so much. Just like you or I can. We're going to handle so much.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of this system was created by the federal government.
Yeah.
It wasn't created by the farmers. The farmers want markets. They don't want federal handouts. They don't want inputs. We've created a system for them that has locked them into this model, this paradigm. What can we do in the federal government to change that?
Well, you've already started. You and Secretary Rollins have started with the regenerative rollout, $700 million, and I think it's with some other add-ons, it's up to $1 billion. That's the start. And I couldn't believe the number of people that you said had signed up for that.
Yeah, that's 13,000 applicants who want to do what you've done, transition.
That right there tells you you're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
You didn't have enough money for the need.
Have enough money.
Yeah, that tells you you're doing it right. So there's number one, get some more money allocated across all the agencies. But when I think of this, now you got to remember, I haven't taken crop insurance now for 7 years. I don't need to. I believe in our system. I believe what it can give back. We don't need that crop insurance. So I'm a little outdated on what the current rules are. But I think we need to get down to the level of RMA, and we need to create the changes there, because the farmers are scared to death to try something, because Mr. Kennedy, I can't try that, because if I try that, it's going to knock me out of being able to take multi-peril crop insurance. And for one, I don't want that risk. And for two, almost every financial lender has a line item on their agreement: you're going to take crop insurance or we're not going to give you the loan this year.
Right.
So it's just the old adage of being on the treadmill and can't get off. That's where we are. So I like the approach of going through RMA, changing rules, making it easier for the farmers to implement these practices, and they won't get discounted or kicked out of the multi-peril crop insurance. I'd love to see that all go away someday. I don't know if that ever will happen. And again, another thing I like to talk about, if I could throw this in, I think too many times we look at things as all or nothing. If we can't get every farmer to do this, it's not going to be a success. I don't agree with that. If you were to move the needle on 30% of the acres in the United States, that's roughly 270 million acres. And I'm going to tell you right now, we've helped teach a lot of people. We've done a lot of consulting. I've never had one person say, I wish I never would have done that. But almost every one of them says, why didn't we do that 10 years ago? We just got to show them the tools and how do we do this properly.
Well, thank you very much, Rick
Thank
Clark.
you.
It's been a joy as always to be
Thank
with
you. Appreciate it.
Produced by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.